Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to be back with you, with that community. It was also the opportunity to give you, for the first time, as we are a very, let's say, we're accustomed to that forum of ITA, very faithful, both in Europe and in the States. It's the first time that we present ourselves as an Airbus with a new logo you see on the bottom right, and you've seen on the movie. I thought it was good for us to do a little bit of 3 parts in my presentation. Whilst titanium is the focus, of course, I thought it's good for you to understand where is Airbus today. I mean, you've heard of it, it's a unique company, there's only one name, blah, blah, blah. So I will start by giving you a little bit of where we are at Airbus. Second part of the presentation is also quite important, is Airbus, $60+ billion company, blah, blah. How much of it is the procurement side, okay? Because here, all of you are hopefully very intimate partners in the supply chain of titanium for Airbus. So what's in it for you guys? So how do we handle the procurement part of it and the raw material, the sourcing? So the second part will be more about sourcing. How do we source global, and then in more specific way, how do we source titanium, and how do we distribute the titanium in our supply chain? The third part, of course, is going to be a focus of the presentation, which is the demand, and what's in it for us as a team, you supplier, us OEM. How do we build the future in an integrated supply chain? So if you're ready for that, let's start. So first, Airbus, the new logo again, it's I would say an international pioneer in the aerospace industry. And I mean that. I'm lucky, I'm extremely privileged, like many of us are. I was walking in the booth, through the booth this morning, and I can see, when you see the movie that I've shown, I've always feel like, wow, you know, I'm privileged to be part of this industry, and you all are. And it's a mix between the privilege to be in the titanium industry, which is extremely interesting, and its link to the aerospace industry. So this is in a nutshell what I wanted to share here. It is, and we will see that, also a unique opportunity. I was part of the guys, so probably a bit of gray hair here, to be in the first ever team that built the EADS at the time. It was the first attempt in 2000 to build the company as a unique European setup. I guess 2017, in June, it will be the finalization. We operate as of 1st of Jan, but it will fully and legally will be operating 1st of July in the new theme. EADS is gone, Airbus is the new logo, and we'll have Airbus Commercial, Airbus Defense, and Airbus Helicopters. I'll explain that in a minute. The growth is sustainable and it's consistent. So we've seen, so here, some numbers, the revenues, and 66.6 billion, 12,000 suppliers. Make no mistake, 100 countries, 12,000 suppliers. Airbus is a management of the supply chain in spirit. So we are an architect, and you guys are part of the supply chain, helping us to build those products, I should say, across. So we have a 700 growth of the order book, which is huge. Well, thinking about 100 billion in 2000, we were quite happy, and a billion and 1,000 billion today. So that is coherent. We will see then in a subset of what does it do to titanium. Most of my predecessors have been showing good trends. I think here we have the overall trend, which we are happy to share with our colleagues from Boeing. Global company, you know that the Aerospatiale, BAE, and the Spanish of this world, and the Germans, we were the 4 nations. So it took us a while to become something else than, it was very good already, those 4 companies and those 4 countries. We are now a truly global company. We operate final assembly line in different continents. We have a footprint, we have engineering, we have manufacturing, we have supply chain all over the place. Our international sales, of course, didn't wait for that. I mean, they were much before us, very international, but we have 20% non-European workforce. And by the way, this is accompanied as well by the fact that the actual board and the structure of the company has included much more international outside Europe persons around the table. Airbus, it is at the forefront of the aviation industry. I was lucky enough to be part of the guys that were in the advanced project when we did the A3XX, which became the A380. Never mind some of the difficulty, local difficulty to attract more market. It will come back, but those type of first, I mean, also fly-by-wire, I mean, and guess what? We are still and very aggressive to go forward on innovation. We'll come to this in a minute. So some numbers here, 54,000 employees, it's a 50 billion revenue, so yes, it is a big chunk of our overall company, but it is very cleverly integrated now, benefiting, I mean, the aircraft, commercial aircraft is making a solid base for the other two companies to grow. We've delivered 6 and 88 last year, and we've met all our commitments, which was outstanding. And when I say we, I don't mean Airbus, I mean we, the supply chain and Airbus. Because without a properly managed set of suppliers managed by all of you, we would have never ever made the deliveries. So thank you. Our beloved helicopters, so beautiful images always. I think you shared with me some of the images in the film, just great. So we are the #1 in the helicopter manufacturer. It is a tough market. It is a market where, luckily, and with very great piece of work by our colleagues from helicopters, we did manage to grow our market share into a yet declining market, which will allow us to become stronger when it will pick up again. And when I say colleagues, I mean colleagues because we in procurement have the mandate to support each and every of those different divisions. And I'll come to this in a minute. Helicopter, #1 in the world, 11 billion, 22,000 employees. And last but not least, the third pillar of the company, it's defense and space. So of course we have the famous A400M, a little bit too famous in the press, I should say. It's outstanding capabilities. It's unique in the world. It will make its way to the market ultimately, even though we'll be suffering sometimes. But this is like any. We are very ambitious with the technical capability of the aircraft, and we are about to meet each and every of them. 2,000 aircraft orders, and #1 European defense company with 11 billion as well. So a very smart move from Tom Anders to make a company which has a much leaner setup, extremely powerful, and looking forward to the execution of it. So in a nutshell, the portfolio goes from the commercial aircraft to the helicopters and defense. And of course, a deep dive on the families of aircraft and those that, of course, are pulling the demand, especially in titanium, and we'll come to this in a minute. 4 families, the 320, transitioning to the Neo family, and we'll see what it does to the titanium volumes. The 330 family, which has enjoyed yet again an interesting Neo, new engine option topic, which has revamped the aircraft and made it to have a fantastic second life. The 350 itself, which is a flagship for our long-range aircraft, and the 380, unique in its domain. Innovation. I think we've seen, and from our partners from Arconic, that innovation is something which we do share with key partners, and in this case they unveiled a little bit of the additive development we do with them. Here you see a picture of a bio design. The picture is not new. I've presented it before. What is new is that we are accelerating our progress on those developments. We are confident that there are some extremely interesting candidates across our 500,000 parts that constitute an aircraft. We will find the right materials, the right parts to constantly innovate and bring in less cost, more, let's say, reliability, and it's a fantastic avenue for us as an OEM and for you as suppliers. So much for the company. What's in it for us in terms of procurement? Impressive numbers. So if you look at here, the way it's shared, it's we got roughly a bit less than 10 billion, which is worth of procurement of what we call general procurement. So we buy telephones and engineering and buildings and CapEx. CapEx, of course, you know, our industry is a huge CapEx intensive. It takes a few billion for each of the new big programs in aircraft. So this is general procurement. It's across the group, so that means in terms of industry, we are very much standard. There are no more a single guy in a corner saying, I will buy myself because I am a small business unit of the big group. No, it is well organized. One guy buys it for the others. It's a lead buyer concept. And the concept that we enjoy also in the raw material and particularly in the titanium. In terms of the rest of the demand, we have about a bit less than 30 billion for Airbus, 5.4, 2.6 for the helicopters. Overall, this is the volume. How does that spread? Well, bear in mind that in the 26 of the Airbus is a big bulk of what is then spread in the supply chain. We'll explain that in a minute. In the enablement process, we buy materials, for example, fasteners, and then we make sure that our partners can benefit from those contracts. The spread is here. We have roughly half of the procurement turnover, which is propulsion system, big thing. And in terms of structure and airframe, it's 20%, and the production material is 5%. System equipment, of course, about 12%. So this is just to give us a view of the overall volume. So when we talk about raw material, aluminum, titanium, we are within, let's say, a little bit below the $2 billion figure. Still procurement and procurement strategy. So what's in it? What are the expectations from an OEM like Airbus? Those, whilst I've reshaped the chart to make it a bit more new, the message is still the same. To me, strategy has to be consistent. You don't change strategy every second day. What changes is probably the actors or the steps or where we are close to the target. So none of those can be questioned. I think we have the luxury to engage each and every of our partners into those. When it comes to sustainable competitiveness, this is all about making sure that we every day look at means and ways and to reduce costs, to avoid cumbersome weight of material when they don't need to be. And walking across the hall this morning, I went across at least 3 people, each of them speaking about that subject already. So I feel I'm very happy that that theme is extremely present, and we have made a success on that. Supply chain de-risking, no doubt. I skipped some of the charts, but I mean, you know, we've seen, my predecessors have explained that the demand in the aeronautic industry is huge and it's ramping up. It means that with somebody like us having about 8 to 10 years of order book, it is absolutely essential that we deliver on time and quality each and every airplane to all customers. It is essential because it's the top line is done. I mean, we've sold those airplanes. So all we can do now is make sure that we deliver them, we have repeat buyer, and that we deliver them with the best possible margin for the industry. So de-risking, it's a key opportunity. It means that we will have every opportunity to look at things which we didn't look in the past. In the past, some of you would come and say, here is an extrusion of titanium. Why don't we trade it off against your forging or against your machine from plate? And we would say, nice of you to ask, come back later. Today we will say, have a seat, let's talk, how much in NRC, what's the recovery, and what does it do to my de-risking potential? So we are engaging on the subject, so good news for all of us. Develop a consistent and eco-efficient global footprint. I mean, no need to speak. We have now demonstrated that our final assembly line across the globe, our footprint in supply chain is very consistent. Now, we still have a big challenge. We, Airbus, we need to make sure that the distribution policy we have from aluminum, titanium, fasteners, and so on, is fitted in a way that diminishes the unnecessary travel and that the added value on a part is made in such a way that avoids that a forging gets fitted at the other end of the planet and then fed back to our file, which is today often the case still. Innovation, this is clearly the cornerstone. Innovation is everywhere for us. The new alloy, the new manufacturing technologies, the 3D printing, where it has to be. It is a constant battle, and I think innovation will do us much better and in parallel with improvement of the competitiveness. The two cannot be disconnected. Synergies within Airbus, I guess my presentation was saying it all. There are huge leverage in making the volumes proper. This is for me. Also for you, there are huge opportunities to make one reference to an audit from an Airbus gentleman that will be worth every other business unit. You spend once the time with an audit, and it's worth all the others. So, easy said than do, but this is the avenue. So, the concept of Airbus is not a rocket science, it's a concept of lead buyer. So, sorry for the busy chart. It's also the occasion for me to announce that into this very structured long-term organization, we have an Airbus Group material board, which constitutes of each of the divisions plus the major subsidiaries of Airbus, Stelia and Premium Aerotech. The chairman of this board used to be Olivier Coquille, has now transitioned to Nicole Leca, who is with us this morning. Thank you, Nicole. New to this community. The lead buyer commodity I am part of. I am the lead buyer for metallic materials. And then we have lead buyers for other types of commodities, as you can read. The important part is that when you deal with me, you deal with somebody that has gathered the needs, the recommendation, the requirements, the spec of the group. So it is a focal point that has the authority to engage contractual framework for 5-10 years over large volumes with you. We do, by the way, with Thierry Wilkes, which is known by many of you, we do have the intention to strengthen the supply chain and quality side of that activity so as to maximize our ability to finish the job. That means to measure on time, on quality delivery across the various supply chain consumers of our contracts. Another key element of our operational strategy, it's enablement and CONBID. CONBID is the mean to collect bottom-up all the needs from the supply chain, giving us the demand for a given year. That CONBID is then transmitted to the mills. Airbus, my team, is negotiating with the mill the proper allocation of where does what be delivered across the next year. We then make sure that those are well channeled with the help of the mills and the respective quality supply chain people. Very, very efficient process. It has been greatly improved by means of digital tools. And I should say the enablement process on top of the CONBID is simply to make sure that when I have a contract with Spirit delivering a work package, Spirit may enjoy the titanium of my contract by means of enablement. That means I ask VSMPO, I ask Arconic, do you guys agree that Spirit could take a chunk of that contract for the delivery of that work package? Everybody's happy. We have a triangular agreement which allows Spirit to operate my contract for the benefit of that work package. Very simple. And in fact, we keep on having more and more of those, and this is the vision. Airbus, as you know, has made spin-off, Stelia, Premium. Therefore, we have less and less manufacturing. Therefore, we keep and we concentrate on strategic matters. What is strategic? Is to ensure long-term and sustainable, let's say, titanium supply in the supply chain. Where is it supplied? Across the supply chain. Does Airbus have a word into the PO placement? No. We need to make sure that the PO stays local, the strategy stays at the level of Airbus. Challenges of our supply chain, out of ramp-up, globalization, customization and innovation, I would just keep the two, ramp-up and innovation. Ramp-up is, of course, a key challenge for us, because we shall not miss any of those deliveries. Of course, as you know, having an 8-year logbook is good, but also it's secured for you as partners, but it's also a little bit cumbersome. Imagine you go to the car dealer next day and you say, I want that Mercedes here. Come back in 8 years, guy. Wow, it's a bit tough. So, of course, the demand, the industry is asking us to ramp up, to swallow a little bit quicker the backlog. So it's a good, balance between capability, strategic, market demand, time to market. So this is one. The second one is innovation. Constantly innovate to make sure that we don't become the next Kodak guys in the planet. We need to be there collectively. And this is an important thing. It is not us alone. You guys have lots of great ideas in the manufacturing techniques, in the alloy development, in the whatever it takes. I can give you one example which wouldn't come as an obvious. We are developing brain cube discussions, which means Airbus and some of its supply chain have thread of information on qualification, on testing. We take all the data from those and we manage to do predictive qualification. We manage to drastically improve and reduce the lead time for change, etc. This is an improvement coming from digital and a tight collaboration between the parties. The titanium demand, third part of my presentation. So we are in the core of the title, so hopefully now securing titanium, what's in it for me, Airbus Group. So every day, in fact, we process more than 30 tons of titanium. To be precise, in the north of 40 tons. So it's a huge number. Second, I've read my predecessors, and I would say I confirm each and every number that were presented when it comes to civil. Defense is a bit more difficult. So on the civil aircraft, we confirm, and in particular, even though these are not the same matrix and the same time frame, when you look at an A350, compared to the 330, we talk about 18 times the amount of titanium. It's huge, big difference. So if we take span evolution, and span is interesting because it is a combination, and I really like one of the charts was presented this morning again. We confirm as well that yes, there is a ramp up of airplanes, but as well, we need to drastically improve the input weight. Vertical integration, buy-to-fly improvement means that whilst I grow the number of parts, the number of work package, the number of airplanes, hopefully I will be more clever and allow for some new design, some new manufacturing routes that will drastically reduce the amount of material that we today waste on an airplane. So it will be a good battle between be there and ramp up, and also obviously continuously challenge the design to decrease the amount of material wasted, not needed. Incremental developments, I said that earlier. Neo, it's all about new engines, the configuration of those engines and the particular setup of the pylon which is fitting the engine to the wing, has enjoyed from the previous generation to the new generation a drastic improvement, and it goes with a huge, let's say, increase of titanium use, good for us as a community, and you know exactly why. So, in parallel, the fact that titanium is a very good player with carbon makes the A350 another beloved train, for the trend of titanium. The people in A350 have been extremely focusing with us to understand the trend of titanium, because they will be very soon becoming the #1 consumer in Airbus. Titanium is key for Airbus. Titanium pricing is absolutely critical, but titanium sustainable availability is also key. And we know that we have lead time, we have resource issue, we have, so all of this has to be tackled. We'll come to this in a minute. What is the sourcing strategy in a nutshell? So I'm trying to resume about 30 slides into one. So first and foremost, very simply, we need to deliver. Deliver on commitments. This is a stable and robust supply chain. We will continuously monitor capacity, we will monitor your ability to run continuous improvement, to in fact make sure at all time that we monitor the blood pressure of our supply chain when it comes to delivering titanium. Second, we need to boost the competitiveness. We cannot stay where we are. So somebody that stays still is dying in our environment, because everybody moves so quickly. So competitiveness is an everyday challenge. So we will investigate every opportunity to get to the total cost of ownership. Sometimes we may take a bit more titanium because it will improve the overall cost. In other time, we will reduce the input weight because it will help the machining or the casting, etc., etc. So we will look at it as a global view. Buy to fly is the key word in this context, and our engineers, our manufacturing engineers, are in community with us to try to find ways and means to invest into long-term solutions. As we prepare the future, of course, we have to innovate. New technologies, 3D printings, and some extrusions that are going to be competitive to forging the plates. Some additive could be placed onto some plates, so some linear friction welding, and so on and so forth. We will push for the most competitive solution in terms of manufacturing technologies. So supplier development will be also a key strategic intent to make sure that the good guys stay tuned with us and dynamically grow with us. The elephant in the room on that chart, it says long-term supply 2020 plus. What does that mean? It means that a few of the people in the room enjoy the existing long-term contract of supplying raw material, titanium raw material with Airbus. The contract will expire at the end of 2020, and we are embarking onto discussions to create the environment for the next generation contract. Come to this in a minute. In that section, I would like to give you some examples of why we have articulated our strategy like this. So the first one is a deliver and commitment. I don't think I need to dwell too much on it, but I just want to give you some example. If I compare in the commercial aerospace domain the numbers of aircraft that I used to do in 2011. I take a single aisle equivalence, so it means if I take a big, large aircraft, it's probably a 10 single aisle equivalent, etc., etc. So that type of conversion. If I compare 2011 to 2018, I have a to 2016, I have a 71% increase. And then, as you could probably see, we have plus 15, plus 9, plus 17 every year. So it's a steady state growth which needs to be sustainable, and we need to adapt to it, because as you probably know, it's a combination of programs for which we will see some growth, substantial one, others with whom we will have some declining activity. Of course, transitioning. If you go from a NEO from a CO to a NEO, there's a transition that has to be managed. So on that graph, I want you to think twice. First, ramp up is key. Second, transition, new product, and ramp down, ramp up is extremely critical. What does it take? It gives us one and only one, let's say, indication. There are only two numbers that we need to remember: 100% on time and 0 defect. How do we do that? Not by sweating and being like a SWAT team every day, proud every evening to have saved the world. It won't work, it won't last. We need to have sustainable systems, including digital support, that will be there to last. So can it be a vendor-managed inventory? Can it be some dedicated information system? It's a sum of all this, all in the mind to team up with Airbus to meet those 100-0. By the way, many people in the room and in our supply chain are already at that stage and enjoying some extremely good business growth with Airbus. By the way, I don't exclude Airbus from that growth and from that, improvement domain. Demand management is on our shoulder, and we are trying to improve every day. It takes two to get a proper D1. The global call for tender. What is it we're trying to achieve in terms of boost competitiveness? Very simple. On one hand side, we want to address the pricing, the positioning, how much dollar per kilogram in that piece of material. And this is the global call for tender. But of course, more important than that, or even as important than that, we will make sure that the terms and conditions of the new contract do take into account the fundamental changes of our industry since we last ran a call for tender on that. And last time it was in 2008, 2009. So it's like 100 years ago. We are an activity that has to be, the drumbeat is much quicker than the lead time of delivery of titanium. We need to tackle this. We need to be more agile. We have to take this into account into the terms of the contract. So this is the challenge for all of us. Second one, very busy chart for engineers. So you will see on this one, on the left-hand side, it's trying to illustrate the fact that, unfortunately, when we buy material, a lot of it goes to scrap. It can be solid, it can be swarf, but it is only a few of what we buy that finish on the aircraft and flies. And whilst you could do some savings, X million euro or dollars via a call for tender, CFT is call for tender, so this is on the price, I should say, a more transactional thing. There's even more to come by cleverly engineering the cost out of the airplane. And this is the fundamental message that I want to share with you. Let's jointly reduce and improve the buy to fly and dramatically move this, let's say, unnecessary metal that we buy that ends up in the bin. Key message. The two approaches are fully complementary. It's not one, it's not like a cheese or dessert. Like in France, you have cheese and dessert. So how do we do buy to fly? Very, very easy. We have the top right, let's say, chart tries to depict a axis of maturity and complexity. Of course, when we do 3D printing, we pride ourselves to think that this is probably the best efficiency, although the maturity is not yet there. However, on the right bottom side, we have nobody prevents us from being a little bit less stupid. So when you have a little frame like this, and in the middle of which, the middle of it was used to be a solid thrown to the bin, why don't we use that solid to do some more parts for our supply chain? It may look simple, takes a little bit of supply chain and logistics, although in this particular case, you get the center part doing parts for free. Here, you improve dramatically. So it comes from very simple to much more technological areas, all of which result into dramatically reduce our butterfly. The bottom one is, of course, something we all love and cheer, is that many of you enjoy, let's say, very solid avenues of recycling means, contractual terms, etc. Most of which have not been used massively and in a coherent manner by the group. And we intend, with the new container, to create the environment to use that in a better manner. I guess we have a lot on the menu here. So I'd like to share with you the last one, which is, by the way, at the end of my presentation. I have with me today one of my famous member of my team, Thomas Cochelin, that many of you know. Thomas used to be the lead buyer for titanium. And you will see in the bottom of that slide that we have created an ALM, so additive, lead buyer position. That means we are serious about engaging first at group level. Group level means not only procurement, but also engineering, development. And we are serious about embarking onto what you see, strategic roadmap. So I'm afraid, compared to some of my predecessors, I'm a little bit less, we do not want to share too much drawings at this stage, but or you've seen some in the other presentation. Titanium, power bed, titanium parts, Inconel parts in the beginning, and then for the high deposition rate, which is another avenue which we think is going to be extremely interesting for us, for titanium parts. So in both cases, we will look at powder, we look at wire sourcing, and we will look at stepped approach from an R&D perspective with TRLs growing to TRL6. Then, as we'd like to think that ALM is an opportunity to run, as many of you will fly back tonight or tomorrow, you will think, well, we're happy that Airbus and Boeing have a secured way to introduce new material in that airplane that I'm sitting in. Yes, we do. So it's ISO design first. So we walk before we run. We then look at optimized design. And then we look at new concept. We try to get, and by the way, we go from a static loaded part to more fatigue parts. And of course, then hopefully class 1 parts. And it's a continuous wave where we will start. You will enjoy opportunities to work with us on those avenues, and we will gradually grow our mutual understanding to make sure that this becomes a sustainable business for our industry. A very interesting avenue here, of course, that matches innovation, cost reduction, potentially support de-risk the ramp-up, etc., etc. So Thomas Cochelin is now the new ALM lead buyer, and you will be happy to meet him at the break if you want. As a conclusion, no surprise you see my best friend, the A350. Even though he's carrying a lot of carbon here in that picture, you know he's your best friend in terms of titanium content. So 350 ramp-up is definitely a key driver. So watch the news, look at the rates and look at the Dash 1000 first flights and everything. It's a growing opportunity for those of you that will follow the rules, that will be on time, that will be in the dynamic. Airbus and the supply chain, not Airbus only. So us as a team, we have a unique opportunity to set up partnership to deliver this strong ramp-up. And for me, I would stress out 4 key elements. So first, improving the use. So titanium is rather expensive. Let's make sure that we use the best of it. Sustainable industrial excellence. It is not yet there. I cannot sustain anything else but 100% on time, and we will do it whatever it costs. I mean, it's going to be there as a team. We'll have to be there, and 0% defects. So it's a common objective. Adapting the operating model to the digital area. That includes ALM, of course, because everybody thinks biodesign may enable us to have a direct link to the PLM, etc., etc. So there are growing opportunities here. Finally, and very important, improve the lead time. And if we cannot improve the lead time, or whatever we cannot improve, we need to improve agility. We need to be able to cope with demand growth, demand decline due to some switch, etc. That is today very, very cumbersome. At the end of which, the discussions on the 2020 plus contract are already started. and some formal demand will be starting to be coming out of my team in Q4 17. So I guess I want you as a community to be ready, and I hope that I've been clear enough during that speech to give you each and every element to be ready to meet our demand. Thank you.